We've limited ourselves into a box in terms of the kind of artists we can bring to this country, the kind of experiences we can have. So you'll never see Jay-Z here. You'll never see Beyonce here. You'll never see Chris Brown here again. Because she was here the first time. And even when he was here the first time, before, people had said you'd never see him here. And the question was, why not? So if you can be able to bring those kind of experiences or those kind of artists here, then you're answering the why not. Challenges are challenges. And some of them are unforeseen, some you can see. And then the night before, somebody throws you a curveball. And so we're coming in on Sunday morning, and courtyard, which is meant to be our parking for VVIPs, is full of cars. And we're like, what the hell is going on here? Nobody had seen this coming at all. Experience helped me know this will happen to Sean Paul. He's going to get here very upset in the morning. If he gets here in the morning, he might come later. And that's what happened.
What is it that I'm actually looking for?
Do we really know life?
Sure. Let me say intelligence. Emotional intelligence, social intelligence, financial intelligence.
So I believe it's important for each and every one of us to understand the rules that govern any arena of your life.
You are listening to The Revenge of the Forsaken Gods, a podcast that explores the human experience and seeks to create a blueprint for a living using books, stories, movies, and conversations. And here is your host, Andrew Balongo Opere.
What if your event could attract more people, inspire them, and drive real revenue? Welcome to today's episode of the Revenge of the Forsaken Gods podcast, where I am your host, Andrew Balongo Opere, and I'm going to focus on the power of brand experiences and marketing. And today's guest is a marketing powerhouse with over a decade of expertise in brand experience, corporate events, and business development. And as the marketing director at the Win Group Agency, our guest has led high-impact festivals and events at Safaricom and EABL, shaping the brand's industry dominance. His work at NRG Radio expanded business opportunities, which unlocked government tendering. He's here to show us how brands can create engaging, results-driven experiences. And apart from that, he's an old-school car lover of Mercedes-Benz. So help me introduce the person that makes you win no matter what. Keith Kirimi, welcome.
Thank you. That intro, it gives the illusion that there's a live audience in front of us. So when you're asking the audience behind a TV screen to help you welcome me, I'm waiting for applause, and there's nothing.
In fact, now, let me give you the applause, and then I'm going to put the air horn.
Thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and that's such a cool name, Kirimi. I've never heard of that name before. Where's that name from, and what does it mean?
Kirimi is from the Meru community. It's a Meru name that, in the general essence of the name of the word, means a farmer. It's my personal name. It's not a family name, which is a very interesting dynamic amongst the Merus, because and be known to most people, the Meru system of nomenclature is similar to the Kikuyu one, but a bit different. Whereas you find Kikuyus will pass on the name the way it is, from grandfather to father to son to grandson. Merus have the same thing, only that they don't pass on the actual name, they pass on traits. So for me, being a firstborn, I was named after my father's father. But his name was not Kirimi, but he had the trait of being a farmer. So I was then given the name Kirimi after my grandfather, who was called Karaoke. And by extension now, my firstborn son, Kimathi, who I named after my father, Mutembei. Kimathi means generous, because my father Mutembei is a generous man. And that's how the Meru nomenclature works. So you're named after a trait of the person you're being named after, not necessarily being given their name.
So how has this trait of being a farmer played out in your life?
Again, the Meru language is very interesting because it won't necessarily relate or translate to you doing the actual farming. So you're not going to expect, or my parents or my grandparents didn't expect that I'd actually go into a farm and start farming potatoes, one of my most favorite food groups. But I'm a farmer in every other essence of the word. I go to the farm and I plant and I harvest. It's just not, actual plants. It's more of events. So you can call me an event farmer, if you will.
Sure, and not just an event farmer, but you said old school Mercedes Benzes. Tell us more about that before we jump into the events.
It's an inside joke, but I love MILFs. I know your heart is in your mouth right now. I'm a MILF lover. A MILF is a Mercedes I'd love to fix. I've had about 5 now. Old Benzes, older than me. Some of them, some are my age. That I have a passion for building, for fixing. So any old school Benz you can think of, especially in the E-Class or the S-Class line, I've owned. And I love to fix them up. I love a project. I love to take something that was, discarded or thrown away that nobody could see value in, and then bring it back to a place that it stands out on the road. So that's my particular passion for cars and for Mercedes Benz in particular. Yeah.
And what do you notice, like as you do that experience, what does it do for you? I know some people, like they say they meditate or they use walking as meditation or whatever. What is it about fixing cars that
It's actually quite fulfilling but frustrating at the same time, because let nobody lie to you. The business or the passion of building cars is very expensive. It's sometimes looked at as throwing money away, because you're the only one who can see the value in the thing that you're building. It's finding a diamond in the rough and polishing it and making it the most valuable diamond. So it's very fulfilling work to see the outcome. It could take a month, it could take a year. Sometimes it's work in progress forever. There are some some cars I've had that were always being fixed. And for me, it's a testament of just finding value in something that people had lost value in. Yeah.
I think it's even a very interesting metaphor for our lives, because when we have the vision for our lives, it's only us who sees it and God.
Yes.
And so you try to explain it to people, they look at you, they don't see it, and you literally just have to walk the path.
Yeah.
And then when it finally happens, people are just like, oh yeah, duh, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not just Mercedes Benzes. My best build was an Audi, a TT that had been discarded or thrown away for maybe 11, 12 years, that I then found when I was in the motor industry business for some time. And absolutely nobody, including the original owner, could see that car becoming a car again. But I towed it out of there and cleaned it and ordered new parts and built it from scratch to a point where when now it was a real car, and then I realized I'm too grown to be sitting in a 2-seater Audi TT. I then put on the market and sold for a bit of a profit. And the person I sold it to saw the value in that car immediately because of what I had done to it. But if they had been presented that opportunity when I found the car in the dirt, they'd never have seen the value in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, in fact, now that's even one of the reasons why I brought you here. How can you help us see value from events, you being an event professional? And you've done several events, of which maybe some of the key events you did is you did the Sean Paul event last year. You did an NBA event, NBA Africa, Korom Festival.
Yeah.
So I'd like you just, share a little bit. What was the, let's start with the Sean Paul. How did it come to you? Talk to us about the journey of pre-production. What elements do you need to have in place? What happened during execution? What worked? What didn't work? How did you pivot to sort those things out? And what are the things that we need to look after an event has happened?
Okay. Sean Paul, very interesting. Because the full name of that experience of that event was Who Said Sean Paul. And there's a brand that I helped co-create with the directors that own this brand, Who Said. They didn't have a name for what they wanted to do, but they knew they wanted to do a series of events that would be different from what has been done in the past. They wanted to create experiences that had value, that gave back value to consumers. They wanted to completely transform the narrative that Kenyan events are not well organized. And they spoke to several people, and I was one of them. And I believe I showed the value that they wanted in somebody who could help them walk this journey with them to create a larger than life experience. And as we were discussing what we should call the event, I remember even proposing to them, I have an asset with a few friends of mine called Why Not, which you should be seeing a bit of later this year. And I told them, I don't mind selling you the name Why Not. We've trademarked it. We can call it Why Not Sean Paul. And it was very interesting, but they felt that, no, we don't want something that you had already, created for yourself, or had a different vision for. We want our own. And we brainstormed, and I suggested, Who Said? And the rationale was, you see, even the rationale of the Why Not is we've limited ourselves into a box in terms of the kind of artists we can bring to this country, the kind of experiences we can have. So you hear in some conversations, you'll never see Jay-Z here. You'll never see Beyonce here. You'll never see Chris Brown here again, because he was here the first time. And even when he was here the first time, before, people had said you'd never see him here. And the question was, why not? So if you can be able to bring those kind of experiences or those kind of artists here, then you're answering the why not. So Who Said did the same exact thing. And because our first artist was Who Said was Sean Paul, then Who Said Sean Paul became such an apt name for the experience. But even before Sean Paul, we had something else we did in October, and we're doing again in March, called Something for the Honeys. So even that, when we put Who Said in front of Something for the Honeys, it worked. Because we're asking a question, who said something for the honeys? We did. So the same thing for Who Said Sean Paul? We did. So we're the ones answering that question of, who said we can have these people here? So I've walked the journey with the team at Who Said, from ideation, curating some of these experiences, and putting together the roadmap for what Who Said looks like, what these experiences look like, what fans should expect. And it was blood, sweat, and tears, literally. It was, people coming together and investing their own money, their own hard-earned money, and believing that this will work and return, some profit. Believing that sponsors would see value in our dream, even though we've not done this before. Believe that, like I'm saying, even though we've not done this before, it's being done by people who've done this before in other capacities, and hoping that sponsors will be able to see that vision and work with us, and that our target audience would be able to see that vision and buy tickets, and that, would be able to even at least break even or turn a profit. So that was the vision, that was the drive behind creating Who Said Sean Paul.
And up to this point, you said some people already put in their money. What was the perceived budget? How much did people put in? Because you haven't talked about, sponsors entering yet. This was before, this is still now.
Yeah.
As you're talking to the clients, people who believe and they're putting in their money. What was the budget for this? How much did people commit to it at this stage?
I'll put it very generally. I won't be specific with numbers.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But an experience of that nature, what you saw, will not cost you anything less than 35 million shillings. That's what it takes to put together that experience. And you then have to go back to your budget or your drawing board and ask yourself very tough questions. Where is this money coming from? Am I going to realize that 5 million from ticket sales? Am I going to realize it from sponsorships, or is it going to be a mix? If it goes to ticketing, it's a very basic rule of thumb I've always told any event planner who comes to me for help, what's the experience you want to put together? And then I help them by costing it. And I tell them, look, this will cost 20 million. So before you have any sponsor on board, you need to convince your audience to buy your tickets. So just for you to break even, you need to sell 20 million worth of tickets. So even with the case of Sean Paul, you need to sell 35 million worth of tickets. Then just do a very basic calculation with if a ticket was 10,000 bob, then you need to sell about 3,500 tickets to get to 35 million. Then put that on a paper and see, do I have 3,500 people who can pay 10,000 shillings? Do they exist? No. Then I need to reduce the offering to maybe 5,000 shillings, which means I need 7,000 people. So you're doubling your number, but you're halving your ask. And as you double your number in terms of your target audience, the harder it is becoming for you, even though you're making it cheaper for people to attend, because unfortunately, there's such a limited amount of Kenyans or Nairobians who attend festivals or concerts or events. It's the same people, it's the same audience. The number is said to be somewhere between 7 and 10,000 of concert attendees in Nairobi. And if there are 7 concerts on one day, it's the same 7 to 10,000 people who are going to be attending these events. It's not 10,000 people per event. No, the pool is about 10,000. And this numbers come from ticketing companies and people who've done events before, just going through their data and their list and saying it's the same guys. It changes where some people will fall off and some guys will come on, but the amount of people willing to pay money, anything to do with 2,000, 3,000 shillings to about 10,000, 20K, it's the same pool of people. So as you're doing your budgeting now, back to the question with like Sean Paul, an experience of that nature should cost about that 5 million shillings. You need to be selling at least 7,000 tickets at 5K. To break even. As you're going along that journey, you then start to reduce that expectation by trying to onboard sponsors. If you can get 10 million worth of sponsorship, then now you only need to raise 25. And remember, we're not talking about profitability, we're talking about breaking even. And sometimes breaking even is a good thing because you're trying to build your brand, but you don't want to burn your pockets. You still want to have the money invested in the first experience to be able to invest in the second experience. And you aim to be successful, so that even if you don't attract a good amount of sponsorship with the first one, you might attract better with the next one. And the goal for most event planners or organizers is that you can be able to create something that sponsors or partners can now fully fund, and your ticketing money is just your profit. Whether you sell 100 tickets or 1,000 tickets, that's just your money. But it's a journey. It's a lot of work that needs to go in there. It's not easy. So yeah, Sean Paul broke even-ish, but it's a journey. It's a journey that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and expect to see more from the Who Said brand to a point where if we have this conversation a year from now, I'd be very happy to come and tell you, okay, now we are making money, and this is the impact. Yeah.
From the time you started the initial conversation with the client to now that time of budgeting, right? How long was that period? Like, when did this conversation happen? So in reality, how long does it take for a successful execution? Or rather, I know this is the beginning part of it, the conversation. Does it take a week?
I know. It's a good question because events are very dynamic. I'll shock you. When I was brought on to work on this project, this was in August of 2024. And then vision date for this concert was September. And so it was a month of work. Then it became 3 weeks of work and then 2 weeks. And then we realized we don't have enough time to put this together. And it was sort of tied to Sean Paul's itinerary and when he was available. And then at some point, I think he was gigging too much and there was some fatigue and he had to take a break. And so he had to postpone. And he was tying his itinerary based on what other countries in the region would also be interested so that he could just tick as many boxes as possible for his tour. So TZ were interested, but the dynamics in TZ are different from the dynamics here. Here you have investors willing to put in their own money and wait for sponsorship. TZ, without the sponsor, there's no gig, which is why you find a lot of those gigs in TZ are so heavily sponsor-led, even when at some point some Kenyans on Twitter were trying to compare the ticket pricing between Sean Paul in TZ and Sean Paul in Kenya. What they probably didn't understand is Sean Paul in Tanzania was maybe 70-80% paid for by a sponsor, which was Casolite. And here we are still writing letters to sponsors and doing PowerPoint decks, and trying to get to that magical number I've told you about. If you have a sponsor here who can give you that 35 million, or even just half of the money to be able to cater for your artist and flights and accommodation, and then you're starting off on an easier footing. It'll be a lot easier for you to sell your ticket cheaper. But so in terms of when we had the first conversation to budgeting to execution, that kept on changing because the concert kept on moving. And we couldn't get a confirmation here because TZ were not ready. So here we're being held hostage. Then we moved it to October 20th and TZ was still not ready. And then we moved it to November and and then eventually they said, okay, TZ are ready for November 30th. And so we could have either the day before or the day after, which is why we went with December 1st. So you see that journey now became 5 months when ideally it was meant to be 30 days of work. So it can be done in 30 days. But I'm glad it took 5 months because it helped us do a lot better than we would have done if we rushed to do it in 4 weeks.
What did you do a lot better?
Had better conversations with would-be sponsors. Had more time to source better venues. Had more time to look at weather patterns and even make changes. From the very beginning, we had wanted a particular venue, which became very hard to get because of the games that were happening this year with Chan and AFCON. And then we had to settle on a very popular events ground that's popular because it's available and a lot of things happen there, but not popular to people who want elements of safety and a rain plan and that sort of thing. So we booked the venue and held on to it and even at some point announced it. But as we kept on realizing how this experience might not be what we want it to be if we do it there, we kept on reaching out to other venues and eventually got KICC with only maybe 10 days to go. But because we'd been doing this for 4 or 5 months, we were able to confidently say we are switching the venue to KICC and we are confident that we can offer a better experience there. It's not that we are switching and now starting to draw from scratch. No, we're just moving that experience there to KICC. So even that whole consideration of changing the venue, it was, this is the plan. We're not deviating from the plan. We're deviating from the venue. Can this plan fit in this new venue? If it can't, then we stick with the old venue. If it can, then we move to the new venue. And we need to convince our audience and those who bought tickets that this is better for them.
So what is it about KCC that is a good event space? Or why did it work well for this kind of event? What is it that you had in place for this kind of experience that you said, you know what, KCC is on the top of the list?
KCC is arguably, ask any event planner, they'll tell you, arguably the best event venue in Nairobi. It's proximal for everyone. Wherever you're coming from, you're coming to the city center. So it's easy from wherever direction you're coming from. Depending on the day you do it, if it's a weekend, there's free parking available in town. The floor is paved with cabro and tarmac, and you don't have to think of a rain plan in terms of putting things on the floor. There are no issues to do with matope. And you see, December, for some reason, was a rainy season. I don't know why. The climate change is not favoring December in Kenya. But yeah, it was raining, and if you're doing this in a field or in a garden, then you already know your audience is going to have a bad experience. Cars will get stuck in the mud. People will have to wear gumboots. Ladies can come out wearing their nice heels or nice shoes. You'll feel good about the event in terms of I saw Sean Paul and I was happy, but I didn't feel good because I didn't dress up the way I wanted to dress up, and I had to wear a raincoat and I had to have an umbrella and I needed. So KCC offers you flawed paved ground. And then, of course, now it's up to you as an event planner to decide whether you're going to do a better rain plan in terms of doing canopies on top. So tents and what have you. So it's just easier at KICC to set up because of the location and then security, which is such a key point of events that unfortunately most event planners put it at the bottom in terms of priorities when planning. Security should be the first thing you think about. Are people going to feel safe when I mention this is the venue? Do they feel that, okay, KCC offers me a safe place to have fun in terms of where will I park my car? Where will I enter from? Is the event likely to be occupied? Unfortunately.
That has happened.
Not at KCC. It's almost unfathomable that it could happen at KCC. But those are the things that you take into consideration. You could have the best security plan and have the best people on board. But if your venue is not right and allows for people to take advantage of porous areas, they're going to come in.
No, porous area means areas that are not secured off, that you can't enter easily.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have a field in the middle of, somewhere on Gong Road, even if you had 1,000 policemen, you can't 100% say that I've cordoned off my area and no one can come in. There are just too many porous areas. So those venues are good, but you have to decide what kind of experience you're doing there. Are they going to attract the bad elements in society? There's some events that happen on those venues on Gong Road that will not attract those elements, and they're successful. But when you're doing a dance hall concert, nobody needs to tell you who you're attracting. It's a no-brainer. No, you don't need to wait and see. They're gonna come. So how do you make sure when they come, it's very hard for them to come in if they don't have a ticket? And even if they buy a ticket, because a lot of them buy tickets and then come and misbehave in your concerts, and you find phones are missing and that type of thing. What measures do you put in place to ensure that there's very little of those incidents once these bad elements are there? So KCC just offers such a fantastic way to tick all those boxes to ensure that your experience is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question, which I guess we can talk about later, obviously, is what can you put in place to minimize those bad elements? But I guess we can talk about that later.
Yes, we can.
Let's continue the whole journey. So you said, since you said now the timeline was 5 months, if you can map it out from conversations. Okay, how did it? You said it started with conversations, and we've covered that.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe you could talk about the expectations from the client. What are the elements that are considered priority for a successful event? What needs to be put in place? Talking about marketing, personnel. What teams are needed to be on the ground to make this successful? You mentioned ticketing. How does this play out? I'm thinking if I'm just an individual, I want to create an event, what can we learn from the Sean Paul experience if we map it out?
The 4-5 months we had to plan, and the team we had on board, including now the client, which is an organization that happens to be made up of 4 individuals who have vast experience in the entertainment and the marketing world. So just that powerhouse alone, and then bringing on board Win Group and the experience that we have with doing events and corporate, it helped us make the right decisions in terms of who we picked to go on this journey with us. So it's not about who is the cheapest audiovisual partner. It's which audiovisual partner will offer us the most value. These conversations boil down to value.
So, what are you looking for in an audiovisual partner?
Quality gear and somebody who has the same vision as you in terms of creating experiences that go beyond this event so they can see the long-term journey and are willing to go on that journey with you, and for that reason are able to offer you visionary discounts. Like, I can see where I'm going with these guys, and if they are a one-time player, let me just make my money and go. But if they can see the vision with you and they're like, okay, you know what, I'll extend the discount to 30% because I know you guys are probably going to do 4 or 5 more and I can see where it's going and I want to be on that journey with you. I want my name to be associated with what you guys are doing. That's what you're looking for. So beyond the gear, you're looking for a quality discount. You're looking for a passionate team, a team that understands this is not any other gig. This is a gig that we all need to feel that we're proud of being part and parcel of. So that goes beyond just audiovisual. It goes into your tents. It goes into your furniture. Those are the main elements in terms of event design. But before event design, security, what is the customer journey? So even when we were doing the planning for Sean Paul, when we do site visits or recce's with the vendors and the suppliers, first thing we always did, and it's just part and parcel of what I do when I'm planning events, we do a walkthrough together. Where are guests coming in from? Here. Where are they going to end up? Here. What is the experience in the middle? Like this. And then you get everybody's input because nobody's an expert. There are few experts. There are few people who call themselves experts. Some are experts, some are not. But everybody has experience. Everybody has a point of view, and none of those points of views should be ignored. So when you're walking together, a group of 50, 60 people representing diverse interests, and you're telling them, this is my plan for security, and somebody's telling you, hey, here, Keith, I don't think this will work. Let's do this instead. Why? Because A, B, C, D. Okay, it's an interesting point to note. The security company you've hired is there and they note it, and then we go back to the drawing board and draw a new plan for the customer journey. And you're involving all your stakeholders together in putting together that plan. So that's what I consider made the event successful and made the planning of the event such an enjoyable experience. Yeah.
So you sorted out security doing the recce.
Yes.
What happens after doing the recce of the event?
So we've done the recce. We know the customer journey. We know what we need to make the experience worthwhile. We've onboarded our main suppliers, audiovisual, tents, furniture. We've spoken to vendors. We've probably done a call to vendors, or we've decided to go to particular vendors who we think would offer us the best experience. And then now we have an event. We have a floor plan. We've drawn it out. This is what it looks like. How do we ensure that what is on the paper translates to what is on the ground, and that this experience we envision for the customer becomes the experience on the ground? So that goes into now, even in terms of security, we start with accreditation. Where are your customers or your guests going to be searched from? What's the first point of interaction they have with your event? Is it policemen? Is it bouncers? We're in town. Is it Kanjo? Where are they coming from? You have different categories of tickets. You have VIPs, you have VVIPs, you have regular. Who is coming from where? And what's that journey going to be like? Once they've interacted with security, what next? They need to be accredited. Do they have tickets? If they don't, where do they buy them? Now they have them, so they come in. Okay, where do I do accreditation and verify that my ticket is valid? And then what do I get to show that I validated my ticket? And then how do I get to where I'm supposed to be going? Whether it's VIP or VVIP or regular. So that's the mapping of the customer journey that we did, and we did so many times. Even the night before the event who are still doing it and saying, hey, that path at night looks like this. Let's change it. This walkway could use 3 more checkpoints. Let's do it. It might feel like the customer will be frustrated by having their wristband validated 5 times before they get there, but we need to protect our interests and we need to protect their interests as well. So anything we can do to secure the protecting of the interests and securing the experience of your event attendee, let's do it. So yeah, that's the journey.
Any other thing that happened before D-Day in terms of making sure what needs to happen? And then I guess in life, someone likes talking about if whatever will go wrong will go wrong, and whatever will go right will go right. But at least if it goes wrong, you need to be prepared for it, or at least pivot. What happened that was unexpected, and how did you guys maneuver before D-Day?
I want to be very I have to be very careful and political with my answer there because we face challenges.
Oh yes, and this is not in any attempt to blame anyone, to throw anyone under the bus. This is more learning experiences. Because at the end of the day, the client experience and customer experience are needed to be unaffected to the best of humanly possible. But we know sometimes things don't go as planned, but we need to do our best to fix them. So it's not any attempt to throw mud at anyone's name. But what learning can we potentially have, that with things going wrong and what to do to make them right?
It's not even, throwing mud on anybody's name or maligning anybody's name. It's just challenges are challenges. And some of them are unforeseen. Some you can see. Some you should see. Some, even if you try to see, you couldn't see. So
I like those categories. You can maybe share maybe one.
Yeah, there are things you can see it's gonna happen, and then you ignore it, or you address it. And there are things that you are like, okay, what in the world is happening? Nobody could ever have foreseen that this would happen. So if you're doing an event at a venue, Carnival, Uhuru Gardens, KICC, Ngong Race Course, you want to know that you have full control of that venue, at least the whole day of the event. KICC offers that to an extent because this is the largest convention center in the region. They are busy. This is December. They are busy. So these are things you can see. We know they're busy. We've checked their calendar. We've talked to other people. We've found out, so what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, your event is starting on Monday. It affects my event in this way because you need to still be setting up on Sunday. So I need an access control for you, where your vendors can come in and still set up without affecting my event. Your event is starting or ending 3 days before mine, so I need you to have cleared at least this much of your setup by this day so that I have as much control of the venue as possible. Because KICC is huge. You have the inside where you have the Savo, you have Lenana, Badeas, then you have the amphitheater. Then you come outside, you have the courtyard where Mzee Jomo Kenyatta sits. Then you have the lawns, which are green but have somehow cabro underneath. It's the 9th wonder of the world. How the lawns are grassy and there's cabro there. And then you have Upper Comesa grounds, and you have Lower Comesa. So Lower Comesa are the ones that face Parliament. And what we booked was Lower Comesa. And we knew we're getting Lower Comesa, and it means then we might need to use the gate at Lower Comesa, which is opposite Parliament. But bear in mind, this is 2024. We've seen Occupy Parliament and stuff. So if they can't go into Parliament, they're going to come here. So it means we're not using that gate at all. It even probably means we're closing off that road and bringing in people through the City Hall gate. But you've then thought of, all the elements around, and you've checked all your boxes, and you're like, we're good. And then the night before, somebody throws you a curveball and tells you, oh, by the way, we have a small event happening at Savo inside KICC. It's not affecting our event, but it affects your gate. Because where we had a plan for we are taking over the gate in the morning, now we are allowing people to come in. Yet we want to have full control of the gate. So it means we need to replan. Where are we giving people wristbands from? Where are we putting barriers and fences? And how are we trying to coexist with these people? Because these people had probably booked that venue before us. And their event has in no way anything to do with ours in terms of even interference. So they should not be inconvenienced. But we've also come and paid for grounds, and we should not be inconvenienced. And especially when we did the walkthrough with you guys, you knew the plan that we had in terms of movement and coordination, and we all agreed. But someone failed to see that, oh, by the way, the event at Savo could actually affect you guys. Somebody failed to see that. Somebody failed to mention that KICC is a church on Sunday mornings. And so we're coming in on Sunday morning, and courtyard, which is meant to be our parking for VVIPs, is full of cars. And we are like, what the hell is going on here? Nobody had seen this coming at all. It wasn't mentioned. We're like, okay, now, what time does the service end? Mara 12, Mara 1. It's 2 o'clock. There are still cars there. People start to leave at 4. We had planned to open gates at 2, but luckily people started coming in from maybe 5 or 6. So it didn't affect us. But yeah, those are the curveballs. Those are the challenges that we are dealing with. Nobody had foreseen that Sunday is a hub of activities in the CBD. And if you've been to the CBD on a Sunday, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's full of youthful Kenyans in the creative space. They're skateboarding, they're dancing, they're shooting, photography, and all of that. But it's the same guys who were leading protests in 2024, obviously, because they're the ones who have the least access to opportunities. And it only takes one bad element to get these guys to decide, by the way, even us guys need to be in that gig. But luckily, our event didn't attract that kind of energy, because nobody felt that this is probably sponsored by somebody in government, or this is our event was just clean, straight cut. So it didn't attract that bad energy. We didn't see comments on social media for we will occupy, we will come. We didn't get any of that. But at some point, they had started to gather around the Intercon area. You could see, that number is growing. It's growing bigger and bigger. And they probably didn't even have the thoughts of, we're looking for a weak point so that we can storm into the event. It was just, hey, if you're standing here, you can see the gig from Intercon. So let's all gather here and watch the gig for free. But that's a recipe for disaster, because it will start to attract more and more people. And as much as maybe the first 1,000 kids who are there were innocent and are like, you know what, I can watch this show from outside, there are another 500 kids who come in who will start to get those thoughts of whether we can enter through that gate. If we all run now, we storm inside that gig, it could happen. So it's how quickly you're able to address that. So luckily, through the help of and the support of the county government, through the governor and his team, Shafi, through the police, through G4S, we were able to very quickly address that, and the crowd was dispersed in a very peaceful manner, and we sort of took control over the streets. But those are the unforeseen things that can happen, that until you experience them, you have no way of knowing they could happen.
I know we've talked a lot about the audience, but we haven't spoken about what to put in place for the talents.
Mm-hmm. In what sense?
How do you prepare for them? Sometimes we hear them, they have certain demands, so what was needed to be put in place for the artists to feel, the main headliner and also the secondary artists, What was needed to sort them out, if we can say that? To make sure that they execute,
Yeah. This for us and for me in particular, even as we're looking at this event as an example, my relationship with a lot of artists, DJs, MCs, my personal relationship with them, my professional relationship with them really came into play because I know a lot of these people personally. So even as we're curating the lineup and I'm calling you to ask your availability and we're negotiating your fees and your riders and all those things, this is a conversation I'm having with Keith one-on-one, and at no point will I start to feel like watu wamenidharau, wamenibeba ufala, none of that. We didn't have any of that. And we were very, very deliberate about the design of our lineup because this is a Sean Paul concert. By virtue of that, it's primarily dancehall. And I won't say it's a mistake, but you'll find some event planners will probably have a concert being headlined by an international artist, but then you've packed your lineup with 9 other performing artists. Then it stops being that person's show. It starts being just a show that has that person. So we're very deliberate. This is a Sean Paul concert. Everything is about Sean Paul. Anything we're going to do or put on stage will only enhance the experience for Sean Paul. So we decided we'd only go with one act before him who would complement his act. And we picked Red Sun based on very many things. Biggest dancehall artist in the region is Kenyan. He was also a headliner in the previous Sean Paul show 20 years before, and so has a good rapport with him, knows how to perform at international events of that caliber because Red Sun has performed all over the world, has curtain raised for the biggest dancehall artists, has even collaborated with them, has done shows with them. So we're dealing with a professional, not a diva. Somebody who understands this is the role you want me to play. Okay, this is the role I'm going to play. Somebody who takes his craft very seriously and says, I'd like to know what Sean Paul is trying to do with his show because I want to do something better, similar or better. We're not going to compete. I'm not going to beef with a guy. I just want to make sure when guys think back on Sean Paul 2024, they remember Red Sun. So that's the kind of artists we're dealing with. All the other talent we had were DJs and MCs and maybe some dancers. So we didn't have a clash per se. We also brought on board a medley to pay ode to Gen Z or the youth in terms of the music that's hot in Kenya today. That's also very similar to dancehall, which happens to be urban tone. And instead of now having like, okay, we're going to have an hour where urban tone artists are just going to come and put out their bangers, we medleyed it with CNG, the DJ, into CNG's doing an urban tone set. But we're going to have urban tone artists come on to do their songs one after the other in a surprise element type of thing, which worked very well. So it didn't feel like we had 6 artists or 10 artists before Sean Paul. No, we had sets that were curated to complement each other and build up to Sean Paul and then build up to what happens after Sean Paul. So the curation was done together with the talent. We have a WhatsApp group where we're telling them, hey, this is what we are thinking. This is what you should play. You should play this. You should play this. Then people can give different ideas and say, okay, I think I should come on after this person because me, I want to play this. And that's how it worked. So talent, again, conversations. Everybody has their own ideas. Don't just book people and say, you're going to come at this time. You're going to come at this. Based on what? Have them, the stakeholders, on one forum and give them your vision. Let them give you their ideas. They have probably more experience than you do in terms of actually being on stage. So again, just bring all your stakeholders together, even if it's in different pockets, to address different things. That's how it works.
Now, outside of the talent, what were some of the stories of the D-Day? How did it roll? Like, okay, you said people came in at 5. What did the team do? What time did people come in? What time did Sean Paul come in? What time did the artists come in? What time did it end? How did the flow go? Obviously, you mentioned that the Sean Paul concert started with church in the morning and ended at 5-ish.
No, not church on our setup.
Yes,
the church
I know.
was inside KCC. But yeah, like I mentioned before, some things you can see them coming from a mile away, and you hope they don't happen. Others, you have no control. So, Sean Paul was performing in TZ the day before, so he's coming here in the morning. Having a team that has experience of knowing what a show in TZ looks like enabled us to know that the show in TZ will probably be late. He'll probably get on stage at 3 a.m., which means he's leaving stage and going straight to the airport to catch a 6 a.m. flight. And the likelihood of that happening is very low, because by the time he leaves the venue, unless he's going straight to the airport, he's not going to catch a 6 a.m. flight. But that's the plan they have. We've advised them and we've told them, look, this is how it goes in TZ. And they're like, no, these guys have a strong lineup and solid timeline. And we're like, it's not about them being disorganized. It's how Tanzanians are. They don't come to these things early. So you might be on stage at 1 a.m. on the lineup, on the program you have, but you're going to perform at 4 a.m. because there's nobody there at 1 a.m. or midnight. It's just how Tanzanians are. You need to understand that and accept it, And this is even experience that I had just a year prior when we were doing Tusker Oktoberfest, and we took it into the regions. And we went to Tanzania. And for some reason, we had put some of these shows back to back. So we had TZ on Saturday and Uganda on Sunday. And again, the same thing of you're going to leave stage, go to the airport, go to the new venue in Uganda, sound check, then go rest, come back for your show. So now this was Nyashinski. And it's 2 a.m. There are maybe 4 headliners, and Nyashinski was not meant to be going last. He's meant to be going maybe 3rd or 4th. But the other local artists are like, no, me, I'm going now because I have a flight to catch. Me, I'm going now because I have this and this and this. And unfortunately now for Nyashinski, he's the one who is told, you're the headliner and you have to close. But the team is like, we have a 4 a.m. flight to catch to go to UG
Uganda
to prepare for the show there. And so us guys must be on stage at 1 a.m. no matter what. And they've put a hard stand on and I'm like, TZ. TZ, there's no hard stand. You'll go on stage when they're ready for you. And that's what happened. Nyash was getting on stage at, I think, almost 3 a.m. And now that whole rush of everyone who was at the hotel is now being told, leave with all the bags and make sure they're in the car. And some guys have already gone advance to the airport and, make sure they're holding the flight for us. And now it's a rush. They're leaving the stage as they're going to the vans and they're going into. So now already he's agitated, he's upset. He's going into UG with a mindset of what the hell is he planning, So that experience helped me know this will happen to Sean Paul. He's going to get here very upset in the morning. If he gets here in the morning, he might come later. And that's what happened. His flight was delayed. Because, of course, now they couldn't get, 6 a.m. flight, and they had to get whatever was available next, which became 10. So he was landing here at 11. He hasn't slept. He's agitated. And he's being told, you have media engagements. You need to be going to Royal Media for an interview. And there's a press conference at Sankara. And he's like, me, I'm only doing one interview. Then I'm sleeping. My team will come and sound check. They know the set we're doing. I don't need to sound check, but my team will sound check. So you have to be prepared for that and sort of help your other colleagues who are not prepared for that understand that it'll work out. Yeah, those are the challenges that we face on the day. But everything worked well despite the artist coming late. Church at Savo in the morning. Gates were meant to open at 2, they opened at 4. Thankfully, we didn't have a turnout at 2. Guys came at 4. Our entertainment lineup was meant to start at 4, started at 6, because again, we opened gates late, but we were able to catch up and get back to the program on time. And that's the beauty of having a lineup that's understanding what's going on and the fusion. And you find now even one DJ was able to say, let's do our set together, that we can catch up on the time. I know you've been paid to do 2 hours and I was paid to do 1 hour, but there's only 1 hour now. So what do? Let's do it together. That's the beauty of having a lineup that you have a relationship with in that sense. But yeah, everything went to plan. It looked like it would not rain. And then it eventually rained just 30 minutes before Sean Paul was to go on stage, and it rained so heavily. But that's when we felt glad that, my God, we picked a good venue, because everybody felt like, oh, it's raining, okay. Even at regular, where there was a bit of a gap between the stage and the canopy that we had for the rain, people were dancing in the rain. The experience was just so nice, and people felt safe. And the rain was only a hindrance for maybe our audience or our guests who were coming in when it started raining, because we had done such a long walkway from where you park to where you get to seat. So a lot of people were rained on, and then, rained on from maybe from where the regular area is to where we had put the toilets, which was a bit of a distance. That was the only thing that you think back and say, here, how could we fix? There's some things you can't fix, by the way. You cannot have a rain plan between where the stage is and where the toilets are. You can have a tunnel. It's not possible. Maybe go for an indoor venue. If you're outside and it rains, you're going to get rained on. How do you minimize and make sure that it's still quality? So, yeah, other than that, everything went to plan. Everything was perfect.
And how was Sean Paul like?
Sean Paul was great. As much as, in the morning you could tell this guy is tired, he's agitated. But, it's not our fault. You're the one who booked back-to-back shows in that sense. But he had a really good attitude. If you meet him in the lift or on his way to the press conference, you can tell he's tired. But then when he gets to now he's like, and then he answered the question so well, and he smiled, interacted with the media, and he hugged people, took photos with whoever wanted to take a photo. But he was very clear, I'm only doing this one engagement. So if there are 3 interviews, do them back to back here, because I'm not going to leave and then come back. I also need to sleep. I need to prepare mentally for my show in Kenya, because I need to deliver a quality show. It's not my fans' fault that some of these logistical issues are happening, so I have to deliver a quality show. And he needs his team to tell him, we've gone on site and we've done a sound check and the gear is up to standard and the venue looks good and we're good to go. He needs to leave the hotel feeling like, okay, let's go and have a good show. So Sean Paul was great. His interaction with sponsors, with media, with partners was great. At the venue, his interaction backstage with sponsors was also great. We had a very interesting opportunity where we convinced Samsung to come on board as partners, sponsors, and hand over a phone to him as, sort of a joke for when he lost his phone when he was here last 20 years ago. So Samsung are here saying, okay, Paul Esana, for what happened to you last time, here's a Galaxy S25. And at first we didn't know how he'd take it, and he took it well, and he's like, okay, we can do it, but not on stage, because on stage now looks like a brand endorsement, and I don't want any issues with people. I don't want to lose out on a deal with Apple in Jamaica or in the US, because I publicly endorsed Samsung in Kenya, but I'll do it backstage. And if I do it backstage, even if there are pictures or whatever, it's fine. It'll look like I was just being gifted something. And it worked out very well. So he engaged very well with that sponsor. He engaged very well with other sponsors, with other artists. He got on stage and gave up. It was such a fantastic performance. It lasted just under 2 hours. That was just bang after bang after bang. And you could tell he had done his research. He knew his audience. He knew what they liked. And
so according to you, from what you observed, what is it that Kenyans like out of Sean Paul's set, the way he organized it?
Show. They want to see showmanship. If it's dancers, they want the dancers to be entertaining away from the artist. there's showmanship in the band. They want to see a drummer who's theatrical. They want to see a Sean Paul who's animated. He's not just standing somewhere in a corner. He's engaging with the crowd. He's coming close. He's, when he's doing a song that's about ladies or, that kind of thing, he's here with them and serenading them and that type of thing. He knows the audience at the front will be excited if he throws a handkerchief or a towel. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, and then, I'd like to find out, two more things, about the marketing journey and also now the post-event conversations. What's needed to happen after the artist and the customers leave, their clients. But before we answer that, I'd like us to take a break, and then when we're back, we get those answers.
So.